Hello and welcome to Channels Book Club. My name is Olakunle Kasumo and it's great to be on the show. Today, it's about inspiring us. It's about motivating us. The book we have today is titled The Test, and it talks about how to overcome adversities and turn them into positives. Don't we need a book like that? We sure do. And the author, like a lot of young Nigerians, years ago, he jackpot. If you know that word has gotten into our lexicon now, jackpot. He jackpot, and he faced mountains when he crossed the seas to a place where he thought would be better. I faced so many mountains, but did he climb those mountains? Yeah, he sure did, and he came out ready to teach the rest of us, or to share with the rest of us his experiences, how he overcame those adversities and turned them into positives. And he did turn them into positives, because today he's such an inspiration to thousands of people. Well, he shared his experiences in this book, and also when we had a chat with him, he said so many things, not just the things he wrote in the book, but life generally. And I'm pretty sure you are going to be inspired by this. Let's get to meet with him and then enjoy the conversation.
Daniel Moses is an entrepreneur, content creator, coach, podcaster, and author. Moses, a Forbes Council member, is also the founder and CEO of Property Wealth Education. He was one of the Yahoo Finance Disruptive Property Mentors in 2021. Moses is the author of Rent to Rent Made Easy: How to Get Started in Property with Little or No Money. He joins Channels Book Club to discuss his recent book, The Test: Transitioning from Ordinary to Extraordinary.
Dr. Moses, nice to have you on Channels Book Club.
Thank you so much for inviting me.
It's great to have you. All the way from
London.
You live in London, right?
Yes.
How's that place now?
It's amazing. London is beautiful. I've lived there for 20 years now, so it's an amazing place.
Years.
Yes.
Wow. 20 years. Yeah, full-blown Londoner.
Absolutely.
Londoner, they call you. Great. All right. You wrote a bit of that story. Not even a bit, a lot of that story in your book, which we are looking at today, The Test: Transitioning from Ordinary to Extraordinary. Everybody wants to make that transition. What's the story behind this book?
Well, the story behind this book was inspired by all my travails, trials, tribulations, adversity, and the list can go on and on as an entrepreneur. So I decided to look back at 20 years of my life, actually over 20 years of my life, to see how far, I have made, how much progress I have achieved. And looking back, one thing stood out, that in this journey of being an entrepreneur, some people make it very quick, 3 years, 5 years. Some people have to go through that lengthy, very, very lengthy journey. And I decided to talk about the fact that I did not allow my desire to disappear as an entrepreneur, because over the years, I've seen entrepreneurs start and quit, and some even give up because they've gone through personal adversity and personal challenges and all these different things. So I look back at 20 plus years of my life, and I decided to put them in a book. How did I transition from the ordinary to becoming the extraordinary of myself? Lessons learned along the way, and how I made so much progress to someone who's now built a multi-million-pound business in the UK.
Fantastic. Somebody listening probably already has some answers to my question here, but I'd like you to crystallize. What will the reader find here, and who is it for?
Well, it's for entrepreneurs who have hit certain roadblocks in their journey, roadblocks that they think they couldn't overcome, and then decided to quit. You see, when we begin this journey of becoming an entrepreneur, one of the things that we're never prepared for is that it's going to be a bumpy ride. We always get into business, entrepreneurship, and saying, you know what, I'm going to start business, and tomorrow I'm going to be I'm going to happily ever after. It's just like a man who gets married and thinks that, okay, my wife and I are going to be perfect for the next, years of our lives, and they're not prepared. And these things has led to early divorces in marriages, for example. Same thing with business. So for me, the readers are, for this book are going to learn how to stay affirmed, how to let your burning desire in collaboration with your passion and endless and effortless, action taking to leading you to your ultimate destination. And above all, embracing challenges as your starting point and not your end point.
Your end point. While I was reading this, I said to myself, Dr. Moses is a hustler. And I mean that in a very complimentary way.
Yes.
Because, the word is... I said, this man is a hustler. And that's what I like about your story. It's in many ways relatable.
Yes.
Relatable in the sense that this is a story of the ordinary guy, young man, who was living in Nigeria.
Yes.
Graduated, schooled in Nigeria.
Yes.
To university level. Finished and decided, look, things are too tough for me here. And even my life is at risk.
Yes.
Let me leave this country and go elsewhere. And then you traveled elsewhere. And then the struggle to get established, to adapt to the new environment, to start, just clawing your way up and then finding the love of your life on a bus, and all that. And I said, this is a very relatable story in many ways. While a lot of people may not have that particular kind of story, they have other stories that, in many ways are relatable to that, if you get what I mean.
100%.
Yeah, and that's why I really like your book. And I would like you to say something to somebody out there who is watching and who is curious about what you've written in here. A little bit of that story you put in here and how you want to connect it to inspiring people out there.
Very good question, by the way. And I'm so glad that you've actually digested the book. On chapter number 1, it's called Push Through Your Pain. So Push Through Your Pain in chapter number 1 tells a story of how a young man, went through different types of challenges back in the days as a university student. I went to University of Benin, and University of Benin at some point became a zone for gang wars in campus and so on and so forth. And what this has to do with the book was I discovered my salesman abilities whilst in university. So whilst I was in university, I literally sold anything.
Everything.
I was called the cargo man. Bring me your,
You
share.
even
I'll
sold
sell it.
cars.
Yeah, I sold cars. And I used to buy clothes from Cotonou, Aloko. I used to sell Aloko. I'm sure you know Aloko.
Yeah, of course.
Thomas Pink shirts, all these used, the used ones. Sell it in campus and sell cars, sell air condition. Basically, sold anything sellable apart from anything illegal. And I discovered my salesman's ability, at that very, very time of my life. And obviously, bringing it to context now, even at that became, a target, because I would sell things to people, they wouldn't pay me 30,000 naira sales, 50,000 naira sales here and there. They pay you 15K, say come and get the rest later. And the next thing is beating you up that you ask for your own money. And how that transitioned to, to being pressurized into gangs at that time. And I tell that little bit of a story there, and I became afraid, of my own self, because what we're promised, back in those days, the moment you're in there now, it's not what it ought to be. So I really found it like, this is not what it should be like. Then that transitioned into, okay, how can I get out of this mess? Let me, leave let me leave Nigeria. Let me find the next country to begin my life. But before that, again, people went to study law and ended up working in pharmacies. Some people went to study accounting and ended up, working, in a farm somewhere. Nigeria, it looks like.
Yeah.
So at that time, way back in 2004, what you study in university doesn't really matter. Even till today, I think it's still the same. What you study does not determine where you're going to. Because I have had friends who studied, agriculture. All right, and they work in the bank. So I said, okay, my life is at risk. the Nigerian, economy is not getting better. There's so much insecurities. I have to leave the country. So I got a visa and eventually traveled to the United Kingdom. Getting there before we left, what we heard at that time was that if you get to London, it's a greener pasture, life is better. But getting to London wasn't the picture that you heard.
The grass was not green.
It wasn't greener on the other side. It was greener later, but it wouldn't be greener at the beginning. And then that became another challenge. Nigeria, where the heat is guaranteed, to now being a country where coal will literally knock off your head. So, and that was not just one. With so many different things, cultural shock. In England there is dignity in labor. Does that make sense? You cannot really influence so many things. Unlike Nigeria, things you can influence things here and there. So I had to go through that journey of settling down in the country. But again, not having actual legal resident permits in the United Kingdom to legally get a legitimate job is also another different ball game. And I had to share all these different stories, how I made those transitions, like doing jobs like beke, cleaning the toilets. Beke means you're the toilet guy that sprays perfume, and doing all different types of odd jobs and just doing all different types of menial jobs, all jobs and all these different things. But again, not allowing my burning desire as an entrepreneur to die. So eventually I started saving money and I went back to what I knew, which was buying things and selling things. So I started doing buying things and selling things, and eventually started shipping. I remember I'll go to the streets, pick up used fridges, used televisions, pack them up in a little 406 car, ship them to Nigeria. They will sell it in what's that place again? I can't remember, in Lagos somewhere. I can't remember the name now. It's not Alaba. The name has just escaped me. It's been a long time.
It's been a while.
Anyway, and I kept that burning desire going as an entrepreneur.
So you were buying stuff there and sending them to Nigeria to resell.
To resell.
Making some money.
And then shipping that money back.
Dr. Moses, I'm going to bring you back. I'm very excited right now because there are millions of young people in Nigeria, who are lost. And I say this with all due respect, to all of them, because the economy is tough. Educational system is, graduates leave school, they don't find jobs, they're just trying to survive, just trying to hang in there and all that. I think that your story is inspiring. I think your story says something to them. Now, I would like you to provide context. I'm going to take you back to where I stopped you. Okay. But I'd like you to provide context. The context I would like you to provide is a little bit about where you are now. Because as you are describing you selling stuff in school and selling, picking up stuff in London, taking them back to Nigeria to sell, hustle and all that, I would like a little bit of context, where you are now, and then we'll go back to that story that you've written in this book.
Fantastic. So, where I am now, I have built. If you want to talk about the Nairas, I've built a net worth of over 7 billion in Naira, and I am a member of Forbes Coaches Council. I also write for Blitz as well now. I've written 2 Amazon best-selling books. I am currently classified right now as the fastest, wealth, coach in the UK. I've mentored over 1,000 people across from, different race. I have trained people to become millionaires as well. One of my clients has built a net worth of over, in Naira context, over 2.5 billion Naira. That's over 2.5 million pounds. Wow. We've done so much amazing things. In my career as well, I've raised, in private investors' finance of over 1.5 million pounds.
I thought it's important for young people out there who are listening to you right now to have context. You didn't just arrive here, and I think this is one of the things you wrote in this book.
Yes.
And this is what you meant by transitioning.
From the ordinary.
From that ordinary state to being extraordinary. From that state where you were young in Nigeria, hustling, trying to survive, you couldn't keep up with the environment. You moved to a different environment, thinking the grass was greener there, and then you went there, and then you started all over again, clawing your way up until you got to where you are now.
Yeah.
So, what's your core message in this book, The Test? What's your core message?
One of the very interesting core message is that, through chapter number 1 to chapter number 2. So chapter number 1 is push through your pain. Then chapter number 2 is the other side of pain.
The other side of
the other side of pain. So I think for me, the message I'm trying to convey is that you will pass through your test.
You will. Everybody will.
The pastor cannot solve it. Your imam cannot solve it. You will pass through your pain, and it's okay to pass through tests. I think for me, one of the greatest message as a Nigerian and someone who has actually been through it, when we go through our pain spiritually, we are quick to blame spiritually. All right? So, and we don't understand that actually we're passing through our pain in order to arrive at a more better destination. So the message is adversity are things that makes you accept it, welcome it, acknowledge it, but strategize on how to navigate through your pain. Because you never learn anything when all things are working for you. You don't learn anything when you have enough money in your bank account. If you have enough money in your bank account to run a business, you're fine, you're comfortable, you're going to do it anyway. But when you have to think, to strategize, to come up with how do I get to this place I'm going to? So for me, as an entrepreneur who have been through it, and when I said I've been through some very dark times, I share a story of building a business.
Well, you lost $150,000 or something?
When I lost over £150,000, all right, in 2015, all right, and being depressed. I went through depression for 2 years on being placed on the highest dose of antidepressant. And coming out from that, I shared that in the book, But now I'm such in a better place. So for me, I had to show that you will go through your pain, but fine, but you need to know where you are now and also identify clearly, with utmost clarity, where you're going to. Because sometimes with entrepreneurs, we often think that when we get into business, personal challenges don't come and hurt you. It's only business challenges. But as an entrepreneur, you are challenged on 2 ways or even more. One is personal challenge. One is business challenge. Personal challenge means, for example, imagine you're meant to start a business today, and all of a sudden your wife gives you a divorce letter. Are you still chasing money, or you're going to be depressed about your wife, divorcing you? Or imagine you're starting a business today, and God forbid, you lost your most loved person. Let's just say your dad. For example, in my case, I lost my dad. So, and for next couple of months, what are you focusing on? You're focusing on either burying your dad, your money, your dad, and stuff like that. And some people then have to hang the boots of their calling in business and say, you know what, let me face this now. I'm going through this now. But entrepreneurs are people that no matter what is being thrown at them, whether personally, emotionally, and otherwise, they keep going. They keep going. Because as an entrepreneur, you are a creator. Because you create ideas that become monetized, either through products or through services. Obviously, I'm not in tech. I'm in real estate now. But for me to have been able to turn nothing, in today's world where I've raised over 1.5 million to start all over again in England and build up a business, it shows that I had to learn so many things during those times where it wasn't working. And guess what? A lot of people, when it wasn't working, actually quitted. Became accustomed to use of substance, alcohol, drugs, and all these different things, because they're feeling like, why me? You start asking yourself questions. So this is where I wrote about how I got out of those dark places and then embraced personal development. I sought the help of mentors, of coaches. I said, I must be doing something wrong. This is not spiritual, this is not physical, but I must be doing something wrong. And then I got into people who had the results I was looking for and then followed step by step to now become the person that I am. So when you go through this thing, sometimes you feel like you're there alone, but other people are there who has been through those journeys. So find them and take advice from them.
The issue of environment, climate, where you're operating in, is something I've always been curious about. I've always thought about, and a lot of people discuss it. This is what I mean. You were in Nigeria, things weren't working out so well. Then you moved to the UK. Okay? Then at some point in time, things were not working so well in the UK. You came to
Back to
Nigeria.
Nigeria.
You came to Nigeria. Then when you came to Nigeria again, you went back to the UK.
Yes.
And I think there was also a second trip back to Nigeria.
But that was the final one.
The final one. Okay. So I would like you to talk about this because you've spoken about so many characteristics you must have as an entrepreneur, as a person.
Yeah.
Be persevering, when it's tough, go through it,
Yeah.
and all those things. But some people will say your environment matters. Where you're operating in matters. I would like you to speak a little bit about that, considering some of the experiences you have had, which you've written in this book. I hope my question is clear.
Yes, it is. It's very clear. Your environment matters, right? We are actively influenced by, what we listen to, for example, what we watch, who we hang around, where we physically live, and as well as who we take advice from. You see, one of the things I came to realize as I went through this journey, before 2015, my mother was one of my most counselor. I'll go to her, the moment it's not going well. But obviously, she loves me, but she will see things in a different eye. But when I made the transition, I started seeking for the right people who would give me the right advice. For example, my mother never, made £1 million or a million, or 100 million naira, for example. With all fairness, it would be wrong for me to take advice from my mother, business advice, because she was going to only talk to me from the place of love and not the place of, implementable steps. And entrepreneurs, a lot of entrepreneurs go through these things on a daily basis. Some of us, it's our wives. Some of us are maybe people who love you. So when I went through this transition, I started to now find the right people in the right environment. Like I said, who has my results? I lived half of my life in England. I lived half of my life in Nigeria. So bringing them both together and then now developing myself through growth and through now being in the right places has now allowed me to, over the last 7 years, to keep pushing and to keep growing and to keep elevating so I can motivate other people that, okay, it's okay to go through those dark moments where you feel like you're distracted, you're out of touch. You're 1 minute you want to live here, 1 minute you want to live there. But as long as you model your desire and you keep your desire in front of you and keep going,
we'll be fine.
There's light at the end of the tunnel.
We'll be fine. Wow, very, very interesting. Time is not our friend now, but I've been going through your chapters here. You've spoken about push through pain, the other side of pain, that's chapter 2.
Yeah.
Preparing yourself for exploits, that's chapter 3. Define your goals and pursue them. That would have been nice to talk about, but we don't have time. Secrets to building a successful business. Riding on your pain to victory. Be wary of the perfection mindset. That's a very, very interesting chapter. Perfection can be a problem.
Yes.
Yeah, it can be a big problem. Becoming anything you want in life, developing an entrepreneurial spirit, transforming your business, pay to play, the transformative journey to success, and the journey of a wealth creation vehicle. Well, we can't say everything. They've got to go and pick this up and read, right?
Absolutely.
Thank you very much for joining us on Channels Book Club, Dr. Moses.
Thank you so very much for having me.
Thank
I'm
you.
so excited.
I'm sure people can find this on Amazon and all the other online bookstores, right?
Yes, absolutely. The book already gone Amazon bestseller. We got to number 3.
Wow.
Yes, so I'm excited for that. And, I want people to go and grab this book because it's a book that is written from the heart. It's written from life, adversity and converting that into, becoming anything. So there's going to be a lot of people who this book is going to transform.
People can get the e-versions, right?
Yes, we have a Kindle.
Downloadable
It's on Kindle,
and other e-readers and all that. Thank you very much. The test, transitioning from ordinary to extraordinary. Dr. Daniel Moses, thanks for joining us on Channels Book Club.
Thank you so very much,
Good to
Mr.
have you
Kole,
here.
for having me here.